Hey my fellow art YouTubers, today let's chat about some benefits about engaging in watercolor exercises and doing some quick paintings. See, it's not about diving into masterpieces every time, it's really about nurturing our minds and our bodies, and really from a medical perspective, engaging in artistic expression really has been known to stimulate various cognitive functions, enhance eye coordination, even alleviate symptoms of arthritis. So it's kind of like a workout for the brains and the joints all together. So today we're going to cover how to do this little shell. Now this is not my most favorite painting in the world, but again, it's the benefit of doing it and the therapy of and release of stress. It's not really about how much pressure we put on ourselves for perfection. And you can see here, this is not a perfect shell. It's really just all about the process. It's not about the end results in these 15-minute warm-ups. All right, so if you're ready, let's dive in and create a beautiful little shell. So again, maybe not my most favorite, but it's a shell. I think I got a little bit of inspiration from that shell as well. I like the color of it. I didn't want it quite as gray. It was there. I was going to grab a plate, but that's handy. I can wash it right out afterward. All right, first let's check out the supplies you'll need. Vivia, I don't know how to say it. Watercolor sheets, the spring set. Again, these might not be like the perfect colors, and mixing them is a little bit more of a challenge than maybe, on my palettes, and they are very concentrated. So I'm going to use those, and I'm going to use my watercolor sheets. Once again, these are great to use, especially for warm-ups. I have a new box of them, box of 50. They come with the envelopes as well. Beautiful, nice edge on them as well. You're gonna wanna tape that down. Preferably, I didn't bring one with me, but if you have a cardboard or something to tape it down to, you can twist and turn. I did have some difficulties because I couldn't move my painting. You might want a black Sharpie for a little detail. I used just one brush for this one, the little Dagger Princeton brush. This is a 1/4 inch. Gives you a nice point. You can use the flat side for larger areas. And I'm also using a little bit of Dr. Martin's Bleed Proof White. These are kind of like my materials I carry with me when I go places. I use a heat tool. A lot of times I like my watercolors to dry naturally, but the heat tool is a quick way to do it. It is hotter than using a blow dryer, but what I find is blow dryer tends to blow your watercolors around, whereas this one is a little bit softer, so you don't get that big pressure, but it does get hotter. So just make sure you keep it far away when you're working with your watercolors. And I really use these for when I'm doing demos. If I'm not doing a demo, then I probably would more than likely let things dry naturally. Okay, let's get started. Remember, you only need 15 minutes for a warm-up. Hey art family, if you're enjoying these 15-minute escapes and warm-ups, a like and a subscribe would mean the world. And please consider supporting me on Patreon for extra perks. Thank you so much for being part of my creative journey. I can use this shell. I'm gonna mix right in here. How cool is that? Use what you have, right? Okay, so I have that lightly sketched in. I'm not gonna do the background. We're gonna do this fairly quickly. Again, 15 minutes, warm-ups, wonderful way for you to work your brain, work your thought process. It's a great exercise. You know how we always exercise our bodies, but we don't always exercise our mind. And this is a great way as you get older for you to use your brains to think about challenges and trying to figure out how to do something. So I think everybody should paint. You really need to make time for yourself. And my mom, before she had some of her surgeries and even her back and her neck, when she painted, she didn't even know. She wasn't even registering her pain levels anymore. And so it's a great way not only to exercise your brain, but if you are having difficulties, that's a great way to just step away from things for a while and let your other side of your brain work. I am looking at some of these colors. I'm trying to look at the shell. It's a lot of whites, a lot of gray in the picture. So I think I'm gonna go with, like, there's a soft burgundy and a soft gray. So let's see if we can mix a little bit of that. Let's try the midnight blue. You can see that it does not look like blue whatsoever. It looks like a burgundy. So this is what I find fascinating about these paints. They're such a highly concentrated pigment. You don't usually see the pigments that strong. So you can you see the color in there? Of course, it's got a little pink to it. So this is more of a blue. It's a really pretty blue. We want to go very light with this. I've got this already pre-wet. So let's just go ahead and pop a little bit in here. This again doesn't have to be the colors. Oops, I want that on there. The colors that are actually in the painting or your subject. It can just be an interpretation. Sometimes you can interpret things with just color. Sometimes you can interpret things with just the shape. And again, a great way to exercise. That's how we work. I think I need to add a little bit of the burgundies to that. So let's go. This is burgundy, which it looks brown on here. Really wild. I can mix up here too. You can see the color. Okay, it's not mixing. I think it's on the other side. Ooh, wow, look at that. That is super vibrant. Look what that did. This shows you how dark these pigments are. It did to my water. I have a little bit of that blue in there, a little bit of the burgundy. What a beautiful purple that makes. Gorgeous. I don't even have a paper towel. Let me reach and grab that. Again, I don't want a lot of this. I want it to be very diluted, so it's, again, harder to accomplish because it's such a dark pigment. Maybe a little bit brighter than that. Now this, again, is not, oh yeah, it's like a pinky shade. It's not the colors that are in that shell, but it sure is pretty. Just gonna keep it light and airy. And I even have like a little bit of brown in that shell. Let's see here what we have for brown. I see brown, easy to flip through because you can see the colors on there. It must be up here, yeah. Tree bark brown. Again, very little, just dropping it in here. Now this is actually starting to dry already, I can tell. So I might have to re-wet some of that. This is where most of that pigment is. It's right in here. Now I don't have this up on any kind of backer board or anything, so I can't tip and tilt, but I would normally like to tip and tilt this. Again, we're keeping it light, keeping it airy. I'm gonna go in with some darker shades. I think once this is dry, maybe in a little bit of that. You can see that olive green. I see all kinds of color. Again, maybe not necessarily the colors I have here, but the shell is more gray tones. If I wanted to gray, I should be able to mix. Let's try this blue and this brown here. And I should be able to get, yeah, a nice wash of gray in there. And keeping it quite light. There is a lot of white in this painting, but even those lightest lights have a little tint to them, so they're not bright white. All right, so we're gonna leave it at that, and let's go ahead and dry again. We wanna keep this under 15 minutes for the warm up. All right, so I am back, and now in the ridges, I wanna go a little bit darker, so I'm gonna see if I can make a little bit more of that gray. Let's use the ocean blue this time, along with that brown. I want a little bit darker pigment, so let's go a little bit more blue and a little bit more of the tree bark. Ooh, it's looking a little too brown. A little bit more blue. So that's looking pretty dark. That might be too dark. Let's see what we get on here. Well, maybe that's gonna be okay. So I'm just gonna go through, now these have like little lines in them where it's that darker value, and they are somewhat rounded. Let's see how this looks. Kind of the thinner lines in the in-between, but again, it's loose, it's interpretive. don't have to be perfect. Those are a little straight. I probably should curve those a little bit more. And I'm trying to use the tip of this brush. I probably could, yeah, I can get a little bit more of a curve on it if I tried a little bit harder. Again, do all the way up. I'm losing a little bit of paint. It's a little bit darker at first. Remember, these are going to dry a little lighter. And you can barely see it up there, so we'll skip that. Is that looking like a shell? These might be really dark. Might be too dark, I don't know. We'll see. Again, I haven't used the Vivia, however you say it, watercolors a whole lot. So this is kind of, I'm still experimenting with them live with you. But I really do like all of those colors in there. Look at that, it's so soft and pretty. I could even do a glaze over the top if I find that this is just too stark. Okay, and then we do have some little edges on here. So that's cute. Let me do a little stripe down in here, a couple of them. I kind of forgot about this little edge over here on this side. All right. I want to go in with a little bit more of that brown. Maybe a little red with it. Tap off the excess. I kind of have this, yeah, let's go a little darker in that section. These are, it's still slightly wet, but I'm going for it. I'll go a little gray here. Just gonna have this little stripe along the outside. And more of a burgundy in here. This is pretty bright. Let's mix that with a little bit of this gray brown we got going on to neutralize it a little bit more. Oops. Okay, that's too strong. Add some water to it, soften it up. I don't want any of those hard edges, so I'm just using some clean water there. There. Maybe a little bit more difficult to spread after it dries, but it's not the best at lifting, but it's okay. It softens it a little bit more. And I could always go in with a little bit more of that gray, but again, how are we doing on time? We gotta move it along, I think. All right, and then this little one here is like a little coral. I don't want it white, but maybe a little bit of yellow, very light yellow, with a little bit of this red. Let's see if we can get an off color here. Yeah, that'll work. Again, just filling in part of that area. This is like a little piece of coral. All this stuff was just kind of hanging around the house here in Carolina while I was running around trying to snap some pictures of some stuff, trying to figure out what I wanted to paint. And these have a little bit of a shadow inside there. Again, that's still wet, so I'm just gonna probably go with another darker value there once this dries. I don't know. Does that look like a piece of coral? I'm not really sure, but we'll go in with some brown afterward. All right, let's dry that. All right. So again, go into that brown. I'm gonna go a little darker this time. Tap off the extra, and I'm just gonna go in with some little dots, these little holes that are in there with a little bit of a shadow. Kind of have this little line that comes through here too. Ooh, it's a little dark. That's all right. And maybe on the edge. Okay. Again, not too many details. I don't want to do too much. And I think that's it for the base. So let's go ahead. I'm going to take a marker this time, and I'm going to outline some of this. I just feel, do I want black? Again, maybe not all of it, but just a little on the outside. Keep it sort of messy. And then I need to have, let's do a couple more ridges in here, some of these. A little bit of black, and then I'm gonna go ahead and use some white in there too. Again, I'm being really messy. I'm not being real particular. We got like these little humps on here. I'm not sure about that. Okay, it's pretty though, pretty colors. And then I'm gonna go into the bleed proof white, and let's see if we can just add a little bit of white in here, because the top of the shell has like these little, I don't wanna paint every one of them, so let's kind of come at an angle. Here we go. I'm gonna try to get that rounded shape. Give me a little bit more. It's really hard because I can't really turn. That's why it's so important, I think, by taping something down, which still in North Carolina, so I didn't get a chance to do this, but if you tape stuff down, you can move your painting to where you need to. I think I need to mess that up a little bit more. Ooh. Just do a little scratching. It's super wet right there, so it's not getting that scratching technique really well on that. That's all right. Not the easiest subject, is it? You think when you first start these, like, oh, this will be a piece of cake. No, not necessarily. I'm gonna need a little bit more in here too. Ooh, wrong color. How are we doing for our 15? I think we are there. So again, maybe not my favorite painting, but hey, that's not what 15-minute warm-ups are all about. It's about learning, growing, trying new things, getting messy, and just having fun. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Thanks for hanging with me again for another 15 minutes. If you are a patron, don't forget to check out the shell painting. I did a second one with a background and sharing that with you on there. All right, have a good one. We'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.